Chainsaw Man Part 2 is coming to an end, but is it really? No. And I don't think it's even close to being over. In fact, I think Chainsaw Man Part 3 will happen, and I have the conclusive evidence to support these claims. Claims that become quite hard to deny when you put into a wider context. Don't believe me? I will change your mind after this and prove you wrong. First of all, the way Shonen Jump, Fujimoto, and even Fujimoto's editors and assistants have treated this question to whether the series is ending with Part 2 is where we should start with this story. When the chapter first released, 231, the final page on Manga Plus app specifically said, "Final chapter coming March 24th. This is not a doctored image. We all saw it the day it came out, if you were lucky enough to catch it like I was. But now, if you go to the app, the end card was changed back to the original to be continued. Let me ask you, why would they change this? What we should respond to this with is a curious eyebrow lift. In the days following the release of 231, Shonen Jump's official social media page made 2 posts about the ending. Most of them are not surprising because they are both conflicting. The first post announced Chainsaw Man's ending as the series finale commemoration. You shouldn't need an AI to understand this. Clearly, this is Shonen Jump announcing a celebration and commemoration for the series' end, meaning that Part 2 is the ultimate conclusion to Chainsaw Man. No Part 3, do not pass go, do not collect $200. But yet again, this is not where the story concludes, because here is where things get saucy. The next post they make directly contradicts the first statement, as they announced it as the Part 2 conclusion commemoration. Once again, no AI needed to interpret this for me. This implies just as strongly as the first post that Part 2 is not the ultimate end to the series, and that this is not the end at all, and that a Part 3 is indeed coming. The reason is because if Part 2 is concluding, then this is much different than saying series finale. Series finale is the final, but Part 2 conclusion means something like this. Breaking Bad Season 1 concludes. Breaking Bad Season 1 conclusion. That statement would be different if we put in the words Breaking Bad finale. When put into terms such as this, it becomes clear what this means. There's actually more to this story. It just keeps getting crazier and crazier, and my mind continues to blow up. A corporate-owned media company reached out to Viz Media on a statement regarding the ending. The response, as you might expect, is the same trend. The Shonen Jump team have confirmed Chainsaw Man is ending, but details are limited. Now, why would we need to wait for details when the series is ending? It's donezo. There are no more details. It's over. It's done. We have all the details we will ever need. I mean, yeah, maybe the details are that Chainsaw Man Season 2 is confirmed, but it already was. I have a video of me reacting, giving my thoughts on that. So what details? Well, I did a little bit of a deep diving, and oh my god, this story gets even crazier. So it may turn out that we are being played and marketed to by Fujimoto, his team, and to a lesser extent, possibly Shonen Jump. Chainsaw Man Part 2 is not the end of the series because this is so Fujimoto can promote the last chapter by riling up fans to bring the discussion to a fever pitch, to drum up hype, attention, and in this day and age, attention is how you get places, because that's really always been the case. And we see the effects of it already with many people calling Fujimoto a genius, or a hack, or lazy, or brilliant. This is where Fujimoto sits and where he likes to sit. He likes to be divisive, because he understands that when you have people divided and against you, or for you, this is where you make the most money and get the most attention. It is how algorithms work. You think these companies don't realize every time you wake up, you scroll and you scroll and you scroll? You're the product to be consumed, and they want your attention because, well, games like Fortnite is calling you. You know that new Marathon, that Crimson Desert, or that other dopamine hit that's literally right there to steal your attention away? Yeah, they don't want you to scroll away. Which, by the way, I will be streaming tonight on Twitch some Rook to Riches runs for Marathon, and then soon I will just probably be streaming a bunch of other games too, and just chilling out and chatting with everyone. But I can tell you right now that you and I are getting played, and you should love it. I know I love it. My ultimate piece of evidence, though, is going to come later in the video. But here is where I have to say, please stay patient, because this next part is a key piece of context that people leave out when discussing if part 2 is the end of the series or if there will be a part 3. I have not seen both sides ever mention this fact. So stick with me. Throughout Chainsaw Man, Fujimoto has been leaving key details in his writing that I've seen nobody ever bring up. The first time I noticed it was in Chapter 1. After we get the setup to Denji's character and his basic and core set of dreams, he is turned into Chainsaw Man. Then, of course, we know that when Makima finds him, she holds him and his chainsaws melt away. It evokes the feeling that the touch of another person, the warmth of a human being melted away the weight and allowed Denji to finally put down his weapons and begin to love rather than survive. Then afterwards, Makima offers him a job at public safety. Either he gets put down like a dog or becomes her dog, and in return, he gets a place to sleep, 3 meals a day, and benefits. To Denji, this is the entire world. You may be saying, what are you even talking about? What does any of this have to do with a part 3? Well, let me cook. Now, later on, after Himeno's death and the capture of Katana Man, to get some easy revenge, as Himeno wrote on the cigarette, Aki and Denji Rochambeau and take turns crushing Katana Man's hopes of having a child on his own. This was a powerful moment for Aki, as his revenge for Katana killing his mentor and the woman who deeply cared for him was stomping in the dude's sack and taking him in for capture. Then again, later on in the Reze arc, the end when Reze reveals that she wants to run away with Denji. He rejects her and instead chooses to stay, as he is conflicted between both Makima and Reze. But as Reze points out, the so-called 3 meals a day is actually the bare minimum and isn't considered a dignified or even fair way of life. But as Denji points out later on, is that he's finally getting into a rhythm with his job and is proud of how far he has come. So Reze bites off his tongue and proceeds to try and kill him. Though that stance doesn't last long, as both eventually come to a mutual understanding, and Denji has to choose between the warmth of Reze or the bare minimum of Makima. The arc ends with Denji promising to run away with Reze, which Reze accepts and chooses Denji over her job and vice versa. But on the way there, Makima captures Reze, and we know what the rest is. We're almost done. In the climax of Chainsaw Man, Denji finally gets his moment to be happy forever with Makima, but the ultimate price was the death of power. On top of that, Denji was being played, and Makima never once saw Denji as Denji. Instead, she was only trying to get to his heart, which was Pochita, which is Chainsaw Man. Not once did Makima ever care about Denji or his dreams, choosing to instead rip out his heart and effectively kill the boy so she can forever be close to her Pochita, the one she controls. Then the series ends with Denji killing and eating Makima, then after that being left with Nayuta to parent, basically, little Makima as he finally chooses to go to school and live his dream. Now, there are more examples in part 2 of these hints, but I'm not going to belabor you with those, and honestly, I want you to go and reread part 1 and 2 and come to your own conclusions for the rest of these hints, because they are pretty much everywhere. So, if you noticed where I'm going, then good, your brain hasn't rotted completely yet. I'm glad. Fujimoto, throughout the entire history of Chainsaw Man, has never once given Denji or any singular character a satisfying ending and or conclusion. Let's take a look at the characters I mentioned in this breakdown. Think about all the times you have heard the phrase, I just want to see Denji and or insert character here be happy and get their happiness. Denji, Pochita, Makima, Reze, Himeno, Aki, Katana Man, Nayuta, Power. Name one of these characters that had a conclusion or end. And think about it before typing it out. I mean, really, mean it. Like, think about this. We know Denji and Pochita haven't. Makima became Nayuta after that, and she died even though she is a devil, and as we know, devils are nearly impossible to kill, so even after being beheaded, there's no conclusive or satisfying ending for her, as we don't even we don't even have a consensus on if Nayuta is dead. Reze, I mean, come on. Reze is absolutely coming back. No way that cut from a butter knife across her chest did jack to her. Himeno, well, that was depressing. I still cry for my drunk eye patch lady. Aki in the same life, I cry for my top knot hunk man. Katana, whatever. Finally, there is power, which has been hinted at several times, namely in the second Chainsaw Man Yoru fight. I mean, come on. When has a character ever in the series had a conclusion? Even in part 2, Yuko didn't, as all that did was give way to fake Chainsaw Man. I mean, honestly, what is Little D's plan? If anything, this right here is the main reason why part 2 is not going to end. Little D still has not given her purpose or utility. She's just been showing up and doing weirdo stuff and confusing everyone besides her sister Fami and Sword Hunk Mirosugo. That's who I'm, of course, talking to when I say Sword Hunk. Do I even need to bring up Asa Mitaka? Come on, guys, we gotta see Asa's character. Get her conclusion. So this brings me to my final piece of evidence beyond all of that, the ultimate example. Let's go back a couple of months ago for this bad boy. The first time we heard that Chainsaw Man is nearing the end is because of the editor himself, Shihei Lin. During the promotion of Volume 23 revealed a bombshell that, quote, the story has finally reached its core, meaning that the part of something that is central to its existence or character. That is the definition of core. That is not the same word as conclusion or finale. They use the word core here. This above all else says that Chainsaw Man Part 2 itself has reached the point for its existence. Not Part 1, not Part 3, 4, or 5, or the entirety of the series. No, that's a very specific wording which can only suggest that Chainsaw Man Part 2, until this point, has not reached the part of itself that is central to its existence. And we actually know the core that was essential to its existence. And guess what? We know the core that was essential to its existence. We know why Part 2 exists. And what is that reason? Well, I released a video on this a couple days ago, so I expect to see you over there. I guarantee you by the end of that video, you will understand clearly and concisely that Chainsaw Man Part 2 is ending, but Part 3, way more likely than not, is coming. Maybe not in the foreseeable future, meaning the next couple of months, but you know what? I'll stop talking. Except I'm not done yet. Yeah, so upon finishing up this script, it was brought to my attention by our community member October that there was an interesting post over on a social media platform that adds even further credence to Chainsaw Man Part 3, and you'll want to see this. According to a post by Jumpman for the Win, he has a theory that flips the script and might be our most believable piece of evidence if true. Quote, real world theory. Ending right before the new financial year starts makes me think there's been some contract renegotiations following the explosion in popularity from the Reze movie. Shonen Jump will definitely want to profit as much as they can off of this, so a definitive end so soon relative to the popularity increase would be a surprise. It would make sense though to end Part 2, let Fujimoto have a break from Chainsaw Man, and have Part 3 return around the same time the International Assassins arc adaptation releases. Intentionally capitalize off of its popularity instead of accidentally having 500,000 new readers arrive in the middle of a frustratingly paced arc. This would mean they could also release Part 2 box set in the meantime, which would sell like crazy. Or I'm coping because I don't want it to end LOL. Shrug. End quote. As for my thoughts on this, the most important thing to remember is that Shonen Jump does not care about anything other than money, and it would be in Fujimoto's best interest to come to Shonen Jump and say, hey, look at how many people are angry that Part 2 is ending with such few conclusions. If you don't want more angry customers, then I suggest you up my contract with more benefits, more time off, and better pay, or else I'm walking and you have to deal with the fallout. That, my friends, is a pretty convincing strategy, and basically has Shonen Jump and their hands tied behind their backs. He gets the leverage in this situation. And absolutely, that's something anyone here should do 100% of the time. Corporations aren't people, they're soulless and have objectively ruined humanity and planet Earth. Don't believe me? Go search that up. Have your worldview crushed, my friends. So either way, I think I support Fujimoto just on that alone, since he is a real creator with an actual soul. So does any of this really convince you though? It's 50-50 probably with the way internet is. Let me know in the comments. Click here to see the reason for Chainsaw Man Part 2's existence. Make it a great day or not. The choice is yours.